Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for the panel discussion and now for the Q&A. My name's Natalie, and I'll be assisting with the Q&A. And we have Kayla Miranda, who was on the panel discussion, and Rachel Tucker, who is with District 5 Constituents Services. And thank you again, both Kayla and Rachel, for being here tonight. And we're going to get started with the questions. So, and continue, if you have any questions, just continue to put them in the chat and we will get to them. So the first question is, how can we continue the conversation and fight nationally since we usually have the same issues?
So one of the ways that we can continue the fight nationally is to join together with other groups and coalitions that are working on the same projects, and to also make sure that we're getting the word out on social media, that we're getting the word out to our friends and family. You know, not everyone is in the same neighborhood. You know, you have family in other states and other cities, and just continue that conversation. Some of the national groups and coalitions work on um, national laws, and they tend to push for federal regulations on housing. So that is where to get in the fight there. But if you want to work more locally, then you would join up with the local coalitions, like the Coalition for Tenant Justice, or PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, or TOP, Texas Organizing Projects. There's also Tier 1 and several other tenant organizations throughout the city.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that because we do all face the same problems, just in different places. And you know, usually like mainstream media doesn't do a good job of really honing in on the issues of regular people, right? And so thus the talking to your neighbors, talking to people that you see out in the store, or things like that, are all really valuable places to share your experiences and to make those connections in order to fight. And then like a panel like this, really, like, even I think some of the panelists, you know, were just like, wow, this is happening globally, and it is. We know that we're stronger when we fight together, and when we know that we're not alone in the feeling that housing is a human, not feeling, but knowing that housing is a human right, that like when people are secure, they have a place that's secure, people are able to actually like breathe a little easier, right? And nationally, this has been exposed through the pandemic, right? Like, I mean, it was an issue before the pandemic, but the pandemic like made it even more clear, right? And like the government gave us all protections. It had moratoriums. It had like no evictions, right? Even though this still happened, but they weren't supposed to, right? But the fact that it did exist is huge. And I mean, now that nationally, like, we've all experienced tenants have experienced some kind of protections, and what that kind of feels like I feel like we can all like unite on that, right? Like fighting for like indefinite moratoriums, you know, or just like housing protections, housing as a human right.
I would also say, if your local neighborhood association or resident association is not there to help you and they're not there fighting for you, it's time to start looking into forming your own. Get together with your neighbors, and that's what happened here where I'm at on the historic West Side. The Historic West Side Resident Association was formed because the previous neighborhood association was not doing their job. They were not there for the residents. They were not helping. So that's what happened. And you have to take back your power. This is your home, regardless if you own the land that you're living on. It is still your home, and you have to fight for your home.
Thank you, both Kayla and Rachel. We'll move on to the next question because we have quite a few. What comprises a land trust? What is a land trust?
So a land trust is it's a trust. For anyone who is not familiar with what a trust is, it's something it's like savings. It's a place to save, to preserve. So a land trust preserves the land that's within the trust. There are different ways to form a land trust. Some land trusts purchase a bunch of properties, and then they would build the homes on those properties and sell just the improvements, which it means just the house, but the land that the house is on would be inside the land trust. Other land trusts have it's been a group of neighbors that have decided we're going to do this together, and then they put all of the land into that land trust. But there are rules, there are bylaws within that trust that protects it from rising taxes, protects it from gentrification, and it keeps the land from falling into the hands of developers, so that the 30 houses on a couple city blocks don't get demolished to build like a huge condominium or a strip mall or even a factory. There's so many ways to try to save your neighborhood, and a community land trust is one of the best options for preventing gentrification, because when we've looked at the numbers of land trusts during times of trouble like the pandemic and like the housing fail we had not too long ago, when all of the prices were dropping and people were going through foreclosures, those land trust members were safe. And this is a way to not only protect the land and the community, but protect the homeowner as well. It keeps the prices from going sky high, and it keeps people looking to turn a profit from coming into the neighborhood, changing it all up, and then leaving.
All right, thank you, Kayla. What would it look like to have rent cancellation and utility bill cancellation?
I think that it would like we've talked about earlier, like it would just be a huge weight lifted off of tenants, off of people. I mean, right now in San Antonio, like if we just look at utilities, there's over 70,000 people that are at risk of disconnections, and this is a public utility. This is something that we're all supposed to have. And I mean, in some places for free, right? And really, it's possible here as well. It's a public good, right? And it's like if we were able to like, the pandemic is still happening, right? And many people are still without work. And if they do have jobs, they aren't paying like living wages. And Many have $1,000, $2,000 in debt because all throughout the pandemic, they've had to make choices on basic human needs. Like, do I pay for food? Do I pay for my medicine? Do I pay my rent? You know, and like and in District 5, we've come across many people who are like, I will pay my rent over anything else, and then they have to figure out how to get food. And that is not a way to live a dignified life, right? And that is insecure. And you know, as the richest country in the world, we have so many people that are food insecure, so many people that are housing insecure, so many people that are utility insecure. I mean, and if we also went through the winter storm Uri, right? And how many people didn't have water? How many people didn't have electricity in like the coldest temperatures that we've experienced, I've ever experienced here in San Antonio, in a huge emergency. And you know, CPS also wants a rate hike, right, on top of the failures. And so it's just if there was rent cancellation, if rent was treated and the utilities were treated as public goods, as human needs, people would actually have time and money to do things that they've wanted to do forever, right? To buy their kids the diapers that they need, to buy their kids the books that, you know, that you can read together, to increase literacy, to have I don't know, it just frees people up, and it helps out even with the stress, even with mental issues, right? Like it that consumes people. And so if it was canceled, it would definitely, you know, we would see a different society, I think.
One of the things that a lot of people don't understand when we say cancel the rent, we're not saying that it should be wiped away clean, and then all of these, you know, homeowners that have mortgages on the property are going to lose their houses because they're not getting paid. No, the government paid out enough money to pay the back due rent. They paid out enough money to pay the utilities. The problem is all of the red tape, all of the bureaucracy in trying to get these applications in. By the time that the application's in, you're another 2 months behind, and it just keeps stacking and stacking, and you know, so many people applied for rental assistance and never got it. And that is where the problem is. If they would just pay it all right now, wipe the slate clean for every person in this country that owes back due rent, all of the landlords would be paid, all of the utility companies would be paid, and people would have a lot less stress on their plate right now. That little bit of money that the government has given is enough to change the lives of everyone in the United States. It really is. And people don't understand that, you know, you're 2 months behind on your rent. You're 2 months behind on your utilities. There's late charges. There is, you know, it accumulates. And then there is that added stress of, okay, I gotta either put the money here in savings so I can pay for a new place because they're gonna kick me out, or, you know, maybe the money is going for COVID. You know, I had COVID. I was really, really sick for like 3 weeks. And then I'm still dealing with symptoms of it. And it's been 2 months. It's been 2.5 months. So all of these families, their bills are stacking up. They're stacking up, and it's accumulating on top of the rent and on top of the utilities. And there's just nowhere to turn. And you can't dig yourself out of that hole. You have to have some sort of help. And you know, considering that the government thinks it's cool to just open everything up and send people to work and to school being COVID positive, and they just want to pretend like this doesn't exist, then they really do need to back people up and just pay it out and let people get, you know, a clean slate and start over.
Thank you. Yes. What is the difference between a land trust versus a co-op?
So we talked about land trust earlier. In the land trust, the actual land goes into the trust, while the improvements, which would be the house or the apartment or whatever is built on top of it, would actually be owned by the homeowner. Um, on a co-op, it's a little different because with the co-op, it's a building, or it could be multiple houses, I suppose, but it is all of the people already living in the properties coming together to buy it and own it and run it together. So say you live in an apartment complex and it's a high rise and there's 88 apartments, and all 88 residents say, you know what, we don't want to rent anymore, we want to buy and we want this to be ours. And they come together and they all pitch in and they buy the property, and then they're all running it and owning their individual apartments while it's still an apartment building. So that's the difference between a co-op and a land trust.
Thank you. And okay, so our next question is in a time in this world where we are fighting for housing, affordable housing, just housing. It can seem very hopeless. Some of our panelists were describing the things they went through and the time they had to wait before things were ever not even resolved. And so the question is, in a times that seem hopeless, what can we still do to affect change?
Sometimes, well, most times, it's in those hopeless times that you find the courage to fight, because you're not playing politics. You're not um, doing charity work. You're fighting for your life. And it's during those hopeless times where you find that strength to get back up and keep fighting. You're not always going to win. And that's the sad truth. It's you can fight and fight, and you can work so hard, and sometimes it feels like for every step forward you take two steps back. But you can't let that stop you. Perseverance, having the courage to tell your story. People don't go through things in life for no reason. I don't believe in anything being random. I have to believe that the things you go through, the experiences that you live, they're teaching you to be stronger. They're teaching you to use those experiences to help other people that are going through the same thing. And that's how I got involved. That's how a lot of us get involved. You start by using your voice. Tell your story. Yeah, there's going to be the naysayers. I never read the comments on my own stuff because I know I'm going to get in my feelings about it. But the truth is they don't know what you're going through. They don't know what a lot of people are going through. They choose to have their head in the sand, and that's fine. But your voice is your most powerful tool. Yes, the organizations are great. Yes, having the backing of leaders and elected officials, that's all wonderful. But the truth of the matter is, the strongest thing that a person can do is use their own voice, their own personal experience. So take that time to tell the world who you are, what you've gone through, and why you're fighting.
Yeah, 100% agree. um, yeah, I mean, it is hard to maintain hope at an optimum, right? Like always, and that's fine because, like Kayla said, it's like a roller coaster, right? You have your ups, you have your downs, and your downs, you look for a new solution, right? New people, maybe a new idea, a new way to fight, a new avenue. Um, you know, I basically think like the personal is political. So everything that like we experience is political, right? The material needs, like I know many people are like, oh, I don't do politics, I don't do politics, but I mean, you do. Every day we do. And to get involved, you don't have to get involved in just voting, right? um it's more, right? Like the organizing, that I mean, we call it organizing, but talking to people about your issues, and getting them to join you in some kind of action. It could be like the tiniest action ever, like, okay, we want to get a stop sign in a special in this specific area because we all know that it's an issue, right? That's organizing. We, you know, it could be at the school, it could be anywhere, right? People getting together and sharing their stories with each other is the strongest tool, right? Because in this society that's very individualistic, we always think that we can solve our problems alone, and that we're the only ones suffering this problem, and we close ourselves off, and then that's when we feel like, oh, there's nothing we can do. And it's like, no, there is, right? There's always some kind of solution. And you know, sometimes you just got to take a step back, look at it from a different perspective, and then continue forward, right? It's easier said than done, but it takes practice. It's a muscle, right? The more that we work it, the more that we're able to maintain that hope. Because like as a vet, like I'm a veteran, and so it's like, well, I'm in a veteran community, and there's so many people that have PTSD, and they get stuck in a specific mindset. But like talking to other people, finding ways of community, right, is the way that they're able to survive another day and to fight, you know, like for whatever they're fighting for, right? And so yeah, I mean, definitely the same thing. Community is a way of moving forward, and you can always go en masse, right, to citizens to be heard, to public comment, and speak to your blue in the face. And you continue to do that, and you continue to talk to people, and you keep growing like the people that you talk to, right? And the more people that do that, the stronger like tenants and just, you know, working San Antonians will be.
Thank you both. Very good. Very good answers and advice, and thank you so much. We have answered all of the questions we have received so far, and so I think we're going to wrap it up for this evening. And, you know, if you do continue to have questions that come up, please reach out to us. And at the end of the panel discussion, which is still, you can still view it on our Esperanza's Facebook and YouTube. There's contact information for all of the organizations local here in San Antonio, but all over the United States that you can get involved in. And like, you know, we said, it's a global issue. And so there's many people to connect with and organize with. And so thank you again for everyone for tuning in and asking questions. And thank you, Kayla and Rachel, for being with us tonight and spending your time with us. And thank you and good night.